Hey guys, so this week we're talking about picking an author and creating a formula for writing one of their books. So the author I picked is Jodi Picoult, and she's written books such as Sing You Home, My Sister's Keeper, 19 Minutes, and The 10th Circle. And ideally, when I've read her books, I've noticed that she tends to pick controversial topics, and they're not always controversial as causing an uproar, but they're very relevant topics. So, for example, the most recent book I've read of hers is Sing You Home, and ideally, her books have two controversial topics in them, but one of them is more underlying than the other, but they do a nice job at intertwining. So, Sing You Home is about gay marriage and where you think life begins. And she does a nice job at not only looking at the religious aspect, but also at the non religious aspect and how people feel about each of those. Because even though a single choice, such as deciding where life begins, should really only be between one person, inevitably it can be affected by other people. So in Sing You Home, you have a couple that was originally married and then they break up. The wife is in a homosexual relationship, and what happens is she and her partner want to have a kid. So they are going to use the eggs and sperm, basically the embryos, from her and her husband to have a child with her partner because she isn't physically able to have children anymore. So, what ends up happening is the husband, well, the ex husband, finds out and gets all upset because he's very religious and he starts to fight for the right to have the, as quoted from the book, unborn children or potential children in his care, even though he's male, he is fighting for the right to these eggs. So, ideally, you get a whole bunch of religious people involved, like the Westboro Church, blah, 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 and then you get GLAAD involved. You get the other side, which is cool because it's really nice to see that this sort of thing is relevant to present day because not only is it talking about where life begins, but it's also talking about the states that allow gay marriage. So it's cool. It's a cool book. I recommend reading it because it's very, very fascinating, and I loved it. But Jodi Picoult ideally picks some type of controversial topic, and some of them go hand in hand. And then she also writes about how the family is understanding the events and how they feel. Each chapter is ideally written from a different character's perspective, and it's the immediate family, the extended family, and the friends. And it's also how the family is affected by these various things that go on in their life. Plus, Jodi Picoult always does the unexpected and pulls a brick to the head with an unexpected ending. So it's always tough to read her books because you never know what's going to happen. And yet, what ends up happening is just so surprising. I can't tell you how many times I've probably cried at the ending of her books because I always get surprised. Even as a writer, I don't expect it, and perhaps that's because I try and turn off the writer side of my brain, but that's what happens is she picks a topic that can be controversial, one, maybe two, and then she writes about them in a family setting. And then she has an unexpected ending, something you will not ever be able to guess. And then there's her book. So, this was kind of very long. My apologies. I haven't done a long video in a long time. but that's basically how I have figured out many of her books into a basic formula. So I hope you all have a great week. Don't forget to be awesome, and I'll see you all next Monday.